It's time to bring it around town, SpongeBob. The yellow square dude is at it again. You can join SpongeBob and all his friends from Bikini Bottom for a soaking wet good time. Available on Game Boy Advance, PC, and the PlayStation game console. Rated M.
Spongebob Squarepants as a series has gotten to the age where you could use it as a method to guess someone's age range. How so? Well, think about it like this. The Spongebob Squarepants movie came out in 2004. That means there are now fully functional adults who were born after the film's release. If you were the age of 10 when the show started in 1999, then by the time this video comes out in 2023, then you'd be turning 34 this year. Happy birthday, by the way, you beautiful bitch. Which did you play first? The original Battle for Bikini Bottom or the rehydrated remake? Cosmic Shake that came out this year could be some kid's very first SpongeBob game. Or you could be like me and have your first game be one of the first. Today on Cackling Pumpkins, we'll be talking about another childhood game of mine, SpongeBob Squarepants Super Sponge on the PS1. Now to clarify, Super Sponge is not the first SpongeBob game. The first is Legend of the Lost Spatula on the Game Boy Color that released in March 14th, 2001. The second is Operation Krabby Patty on PC in September 24th, 2001. Then Super Sponge on both the PS1 and the Game Boy Advance on November 5th, 2001, which makes it the third. So, while I never played the first SpongeBob game, I did start playing SpongeBob games in their first year. Now that I made the audience feel both old and existential of the constant, uncontrollable passage of time, let's get into the review. It's Patrick's birthday, and SpongeBob wants to do something special for him. He decides that an autograph from their items, Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, would be the best fit. But instead of doing the most basic of tasks and just be done with it, the two would rather send SpongeBob on needless fetch quests to try and scare him off.
Well, we are a bit busy right now, no rest for superheroes. Well, I know that Mermaid Man might consider signing one for a superhero snack.
Peanut butter, tomatoes, jelly.
But of course, SpongeBob is determined to make this the best birthday for Patrick. So he goes off on an adventure throughout Bikini Bottom. Honestly, the premise feels like it could actually work as an early episode of the show. While it isn't the most grand adventure for a video game, it still feels true to the series, especially the writing whenever SpongeBob returns to Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, as the two are constantly trying to get rid of him, which is something that actually could have happened in the show.
Look what I have got for you!
Look, kid, you're beginning to bug me now. One of my favorite kelp bars would be great. Hey, kid, you can only get them in Bikini Bottom.
You must go through 5 chapters, each with their own set of levels to find the objects that 2 retired superheroes desire. The game itself is pretty straightforward, and it even has other characters from the show appear in different levels to help you from time to time. It's not a particularly complicated game, nor is it that long as it just takes less than 2 hours to beat. But while it isn't that long or complicated, there is still a huge amount of problems that make it borderline frustrating. Visually, the game seems very confused. The game is a 2D platformer, with the platforms that are sometimes 3D and other times 2D. All of SpongeBob's friends are motionless 2D sprites, while with SpongeBob, I can't even tell if he's 2D or 3D. His simple animations and cartoonish facial features make it seem like he's a complicated 2D sprite, but certain animations at play, such as him looking down, makes him bend as if he's 3D. Perhaps they were trying to make a 3D object appear 2D, hence the black outline around SpongeBob. So, which is it? Well, it turns out that SpongeBob is actually an extremely simple 2D model that's ironically just a square. So they added an outline to give him more of a cartoony shape. Having a mix between 2D and 3D elements in 5th generation games is extremely common, but at least most of those other games like Crash Bandicoot are more consistent on what is and isn't 3D. All of the enemies, environments, and Crash himself is 3D, while items and certain effects are 2D. So despite it being a blend between the two, it still feels consistent. Keep in mind, Crash Bandicoot Warped came out in 1998, as this game came out in 2001, near the end of the PS1's life cycle. Perhaps maybe that was the problem. They knew the PS1 was near its end and wanted the game to be on a modern platform, hence why they have a Game Boy Advance version. It's possible that this may have had an influence on the development of the game. the devs probably didn't have a good time with this one. Or maybe too much of a good time if you get what I'm saying, as there are files hidden in the game of sketches of SpongeBob porn. One of SpongeBob and Patrick going dog style, and another of Patrick railing Sandy, and lastly there's a strange sketch of SpongeBob and BDSM attire. Now to something that most normal human beings won't find sexual, the strange enemies that don't match the style of the show at all. You get these weird slugs that they could have modeled after Gary just without a shell. Then there's these triangle fish things that not only don't match the show, but are impossible to hit. Speaking of enemies, in most 2D platformers, beating enemies should be simple, right? Unless the game is designed around combat, or it's something along the lines of a run-and-gun shooter, killing enemies should only take one action done with a simple input. In Mario, you simply jump on your opponents. In Sonic, you jump into them. In Mega Man, you use the Mega Buster or whatever weapon you have at them. These actions are all done with a single button press. Sure, some enemies might require a little more thought, but most of the time beating enemies should be simple and efficient. But in SpongeBob Supersponge, they decide to make things more difficult. You can't simply jump on an enemy. You have two options, but both have their fair share of problems. First, you can ground pound on enemies. Simple, right? But this game is one of those titles that decided it was a good idea to make the ground pound the same button as your jump, meaning you might accidentally use it when you didn't mean to, which can lead to your own demise in some cases, such as panic jumping over a gap, but because you were panicking, you hit the jump button one too many times as you sail into the pit you were trying to avoid. This hasn't happened to me very often, thankfully, as the ground pound doesn't have too many uses outside of being used as a last resort to fight enemies. But the game doesn't even use all the PS1 controller's buttons. They had a decent amount of buttons that they could have assigned it to. I'm assuming this is another issue that came from developing the game for the Game Boy Advance, as the console does have less buttons. Now, I don't know that much about game development, nor will I pretend to. But would it really be that difficult to make the input for the ground pound on a separate button from the jump on one of the many buttons you're not using? The second is throwing jellyfish at them. You do this by catching jellyfish that are flying across the stage using your fishing net, and throwing them as ammo. SpongeBob, did you not learn anything from Jellyfish Hunter? I don't say that episode came after this game, as Jellyfish Hunter was released September 28th, 2001, while this game came out on November 5th, 2001.
Doesn't that conflict with the overall message of the episode? This game is morally bankrupt. Kind of awkward.
Let's move on before I start sounding more like the cartoon community. The problem here is that when you shoot a jellyfish, they only bounce on the ground. You'd think they'd be able to shoot in a straight line considering they're already swimming around the stage, but nope. They can't even go up slopes, so the only enemies you can hit easily are ones directly in front of you. Sure, you can kill these unidentified flying fish if you were, but you are going to need to aim that shot perfectly. It's better just to run through the stage. You do get other items throughout the game that are way more useful. A gun that can actually shoot jellyfish in a single direction, the reef blower from the episode of the same name, that has the ability to suck up certain items as you can shoot them in several directions, and bubbles you can use as platforms. These items are way better than the default fishing net. If they were given to you as regular items you can switch between along with the jellyfish net, as power-ups are treated as ammo instead, that would automatically make the game better. Heck, for the jellyfish gun, all they'd have to do is turn the jellyfish net into a move that purely just catches jellyfish and other items, as the gun and reef blower can shoot whatever you stocked up. In other words, the jellyfish net would be a method to regain ammo, and the gun would be a gun. And that would instantly make the game a point better. But not even these power-ups can save you from the enemy placement. In certain stages you may need to go through screen changes like you would in Mario after entering a pipe. But when you get to the other side, there's a chance an enemy is sitting right there waiting for you. Oh sure, that's fair. That's real nice. No, I really love that. That's great. Whee! I'm having a good time. Whee! Oops, I should have been more mindful of the enemy that just directly appeared on top of me. My mistake. Silly me. By the way, I never explained how health works in this game. Well, you see these golden spatulas? In games like Battle for Bikini Bottom, they were treated as important collectibles, the equivalent of Power Stars in Mario 64, but here, they're more like rings from Sonic, as they are your health. If you get hit, all your golden spatulas you collect fly out of you, as you must try to collect what's fallen to survive. Get hit with none, and it's death. but every time you get hit, SpongeBob releases the most blood-curdling scream. Jesus, man! This dude's dying in a war for his friend! It's real responsible Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy making a poor young man risk his life just so they wouldn't have to sign an autograph? Real heroic. No wonder you're retired. But honestly, it is kind of funny. I wish more games had realistic screams when you take damage. But it's okay. We're at the end of the game now. Man Ray's lair. So Man Ray is the final boss of this game. I should have known considering who we were helping throughout the entire game. It's gonna be a great battle. And oh, there he is! Oh well, bye Man Ray. Oh god, there he is again! There's another one! Oh sweet Jesus! Holy shrimp, he's everywhere! I can't do this! I can't do this! Oh sweet Neptune! Why didn't I suspect it sooner? The true final boss! The worst enemy in SpongeBob history! A random mutant robot fish dog thing! As we all know him, of course! Oh, there! I did it! Happy birthday, Patrick. I hope you never forget this day, 'cause I know I won't. This day will live in my mind, keeping me up at night until I finally enter Davy Jones' locker.
Hey, Patrick, how about a glass of delicious, creamy chocolate milk?
Oh, yummy! I love chocolate milk!
And it's good for you.
Chocolate milk. You can absorb it for yourself. Got chocolate milk?
Rated everyone. This just in. The battle for Bikini Bottom will not be fought. It will be play. Help SpongeBob, Patrick, and Sandy foil Plankton's evil scheme to take down Bikini Bottom. Spongebob Squarepants. The battle for Bikini Bottom now available on your favorite game system.
There are a lot of SpongeBob games out there, too many to count at this point, but one that many consider to be the best game based on the franchise is SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom. And honestly, it's kinda hard to deny that. I mean, it is the only game that was remade for modern platforms over a decade later due to its popularity. So we know it's a good game. Heck, I've already put it in my top 10 licensed games of the 2000s list in 2022, so you already know how I feel about it, but how good is it exactly? Should it be considered one of the greats of the 6th generation, next to titles like Super Smash Bros. Melee, Kingdom Hearts 2, or Halo 2? Or is it just alright? It's often compared to many licensed games of the era, but that's like comparing the quality of something to the random objects thrown across the lawn of a crack house. Is it better than a dirt-covered baby doll that belongs to a neglected child that got an infection from a scrape on the knee due to not being taken care of properly? Or is it worse than the couch with the questionable stains that probably could have been salvaged if you actually took the time to clean it that's now sitting by a dying pine tree in the rain? All for everyone to see, by the way. Well, let's find out. Welcome to Cackling Pumpkins, and this is SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom. Plankton is ready to take over the city with a new device that will continuously create and duplicate robot minions, but due to the lever being set to not obey, which would surely never be overanalyzed by a random YouTuber who doesn't understand cartoon logic, the robots start to run amok. At the same time, while playing a game, SpongeBob and Patrick want robots to be real, so they make a wish into their magic wishing shell. Be careful what you wish for, guys!
The next day, robots are attacking Bikini Bottom, and SpongeBob and Patrick believe it's their fault, so they venture out to fix the mess that they believe they made by fighting robots, helping the local residents, and collecting golden spatulas to open new locations. When the game starts, you get to explore SpongeBob's house. Here you'll be taught how to play the game and what's important to focus on. The main objective is to collect golden spatulas. The more golden spatulas you get, the more stages you are granted access to. What's nice is that once you collect a golden spatula, you get to continue the level from there. I bring this up because at the time, when you collected a Power Star or a Shine Sprite in a 3D Mario title, the game would kick you out of the level as you would have to just go back in to get the next. It wasn't until 2017 Super Mario Odyssey that you would be able to continue from where you left off after getting a major collectible, 14 years after this game. So it obviously wasn't a technical issue, they just decided on that. But enough about Power Stars, let's get back to spatulas. That's not the only thing you should collect. There are also shiny things that can open alternate pathways and other challenges, so be sure to collect as many as possible. It won't be too hard considering how satisfying it is to collect them. If you collect a large number of them, the noise the points make increases faster with a high pitch.
Yeah, that's real good.
SpongeBob himself feels really solid to play as. The controls are really responsive and his actions are quick and effective. With the most licensed games at the time, the characters would usually have the bare minimum of functions and polish, but this game doesn't feel like a licensed title. It feels like an actual game. After leaving his house, you get to explore his neighborhood. This is where you'll meet other characters from the show, including Patrick, who needs you to collect his missing socks. Socks are like blue coins in Mario Sunshine. Collecting a certain number of them and returning them to Patrick will earn you more golden spatulas. Then there's Mr. Krabs, who wants you to get shiny things so he can get you golden spatulas, which makes these collectibles even more valuable. But there's just one problem. Well, just take a listen.
SpongeBob, this flapping robot crisis is making the Krusty Krab lose money like a sinking ship. No money means no more Krusty Krab. No more Krusty Krab means no more fry cooking for you.
You okay there, Mr. Krabs? Got a chest cold or something? Sound like you need some Dayquil. In the show, he's voiced by Clancy Brown, but here he doesn't reprise his role, and instead he's voiced by Joey White. Apparently there were budgetary and scheduling issues that faced Iron Wool Studios at the time that made it difficult to get Clancy Brown to reprise his role, hence why you would see him voice as Mr. Krabs in some SpongeBob games like Lights, Camera, Pants, and not others. Whenever he isn't available, Joe takes his spot. Joe also voices Mermaid Man rather than Ernest Borgnine, who most likely couldn't make it for similar reasons. You think they'd get him to reprise his role in the Rehydrated remake, but no, he's still voiced by Joe White there too. In an interview with producer Martin Krusch, if that's how I pronounce your name, he had said that he wanted to be as true to the original game as possible. I get that, but this was one of the biggest issues many had with the game's presentation. I understand keeping Joe's Mermaid Man lines, as his original voice actor passed away in 2012, but at least get Mr. Krabs to sound like himself. You can also go into the houses of Patrick and Squidward to find many golden spatulas before you even go to the first stage. One is called Annoy Squidward, but it's more like breaking and entering, trespassing, vandalism, and property damage. Oh, and you can hit Squidward, so that's also aggravated assault and possibly attempt of murder of the first degree. To beg you to stop, Squidward gives you his golden spatula, most likely unwillingly, so that's also theft, larceny, robbery, and or burglary. Depending on the state you live in, that could either result in a few months in prison or being sent to death row. And no one wants to see SpongeBob in the chair. This is all with the abilities you already have, by the way, which may seem basic, but you'll get more abilities later as Bubble Buddy comes to town. He teaches you new moves involving bubble blowing, all of which are fine and useful, but then there's Bubble Bowl, which allows you to create a bowling ball projectile, which I have to say is pretty awkward. When you charge the bubble ball, SpongeBob slowly creeps forward, which wouldn't be a problem, but there are certain situations where you'd want him to stay still, especially since holding the input is also the only way you can aim it properly. Not only this, but sometimes the bubble bounces off walls right beside your target, or even under them despite aiming right in their direction. It is a very awkward move. Only use it when you have to. The Bubble Cruise, the last ability you unlock, takes some time to get used to. You immediately switch from third person to the first person view of the missile you control, and you have to aim it at your target, but you only have a few seconds to do it, and if SpongeBob takes damage, it cancels out the move. Most other abilities are much easier to control, such as the Bubble Spin, your most used attack, Bubble Bash, which allows you to attack crates and enemies in the air from right under them, and the Bubble Bounce, your typical ground pound, which can be used to press buttons under you. There is Bubble Ball, but that's only accessed with an item, and honestly I have no idea what this thing is used for besides maybe some speed-based challenges. You'd think that if you pick up enough speed you can bash into enemies, but no. You can't even just jump as a ball, as trying to cancels the move out. But besides that, everything controls really nicely. You've got a pretty decent moveset here, and SpongeBob isn't the only character you play as. In certain stages you'll find a bus stop. Using it will allow you to switch to either Patrick or Sandy depending on the level. Both have their own unique abilities and are required to get certain golden spatulas. For someone who got an award for doing absolutely nothing longer than anyone else, Patrick sure gets things moving. Literally, his key ability is to be able to pick up and throw objects. Watermelons, ice, enemies, you name it. The picking up and throwing works alright. I like that the game points out what you're currently aiming at, and the game isn't very picky about the angle or position. As long as the finger shows up, you should be good. Most of the time, as it's not perfect, which can be annoying because watermelons only last a few seconds until they pop. But that's not all you can do. You can also attack with a belly bump and slam on the ground with a belly flop. I kinda wish there was more I could do with Patrick besides those few things though. I feel like I get a lot more mileage out of the next character, Sandy Cheeks, the karate-loving scientist squirrel from Big Old Texas. I tell you what. Sandy can attack with karate, lasso enemies up, slow her descent with said lasso, and swing off these purely American-made points. But I'd be willing to bet it still says Made in China somewhere on it. Sandy was way more fun to play as because she has an option for almost every situation. Recovery, movement, combat, range, while Patrick just has, pick up and throw. He's got the same powers as an angry Walmart employee doing stock. He doesn't have much for movement or recovery, and if there's nothing to throw, range is out the window. You could say that it's in character, but I still feel as if you could have given him something that's still in line with who he is, like what Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 did. But still, you're mainly going to be playing as SpongeBob. He is the main focus of the game, and by default is already playing in each level at the start. For Sandy and Patrick, they'll only appear in some levels while never sharing the same one. So you'll be playing as SpongeBob either 50 to 60% of the time, 20 or 25% will go to Patrick, and the last 20 to 25 other percent will go to Sandy, so it makes sense why they're not as fleshed out. In fact, in the next game that used this engine, the Spongebob Squarepants movie game, Sandy was outright removed and Patrick was given a bit more stuff. The only major issue I have with the gameplay is the knockback. Knockback is a good way to receive feedback for taking damage, and most games have it, but I'm sure you've heard of a common criticism that plagues knockback: the unfair kill. Most think of Castlevania as a primary example of this, taking damage and being knocked off a platform, going from just losing some health to your entire life. In most games like Mario or Sonic, the issue isn't as bad, unless you just get really unlucky. In SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom, it can vary from fine to Castlevania levels of annoying. A lot of it is because of the nature of the knockback, which seems to be dependent on position or angle. Sometimes you'll just be nudged back slightly, other times you'll be sent flying. I'm getting flashbacks to Super Smash Flash 1 with this inconsistency. Thankfully, it doesn't get as bad as Castlevania, as you have more ground to stand on, but that's not always the case, as some stages or sections have less than others. That, or you could be sent to an earlier part of the level if you get knocked off at the wrong place, and you'll have to work your way back up. That's not the worst thing, because these levels are pretty alright. You get these big, set locations to run around in, but it never feels like you're moving aimlessly. Take Jellyfish Fields as an example, the first real level of the game. While there is a clear path to take, the level is open enough to allow you to explore and find new paths or items, but it's not so open that you're just running around trying to figure out what you're supposed to do next. It's a pretty good balance between the two. Even if you feel like you missed something, you could just pause the game to see which golden spatulas you found or are still missing. The ones on the left are usually at the beginning of the level, and the last are the ones near the end, so that's pretty handy. All of the levels are based on locations you've seen in the show: Downtown Bikini Bottom, Rock Bottom, and Goo Lagoon. It's a nice homage to the show, and most of them are well designed too, though I did find myself getting lost in rock bottom a bit. That, and there's also one section of Mermaid Man's lair which is so annoying to do. You see, there's this puzzle where a giant ball will roll on a rail, and you must make sure the ball doesn't fall off by activating devices on its path. But you have to move as fast as possible, miss even a single jump, and you might have just lost. What's worse is that there are moments where you have to activate a path for the ball when you can't even see it. Do it too late or too early, and it's back at the beginning for you.
Holy shrimp!
Ah, barnacles. No, come on! You know I had that, you... But that's only one part of a single level, most of which I'd say are good. The only one bad world I'd bring up is Kelp Forest. The level goes against what I just praised the game for, being open but still guiding the player forward. While there are some points that are like that, I would say that most of the level is too open. It's hard to figure out where I'm supposed to go at certain points. This is the only level I would say is badly designed. Subjectively, I could just be a fucking idiot. Don't take a YouTuber's opinion as anything more than that, folks. Some of you still have to learn that, and it shows. Yeah, I'm talking about you. Why not make your own opinions for once, you fucking shill? And in my opinion, this game deserves the praise it gets. It's no masterpiece, but it's no wonder why I got a remake years later, which also added some new content, some of which were based on scrapped ideas for this game, like the robot Squidward fight. Find the original or try the new one. Either way, I think you're in for a good time.
Not just cartoons.
Where's Nicktoons?
Arnold, Helga, Phoebe, Gerald, Sid, Grandpa, Stinky, Harold, SpongeBob, Patrick, Sandy, keep the Krabby Patties handy, Squidward, Tito, Twister, Reggie, Rocket, Otto's sister, Ginger, Hoodsy, Carl, Macy, Junior high school life is crazy. Not just cartoons.
We're Nicktoons.
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 Grandma sings, Pelvic rolls. Cat and dog have separate bowls. Invader Zim and Mrs. Bitters giving Dib a case of jitters. June and Henry, Baby Dill, Angelica and Phil and Lil, Susie, Kimmy, Chucky, Tommy, all their daddies and their mommies. Not just cartoons.
We're Nicktoons.
Not just cartoons. We're Nicktoons. Not just cartoons.
We're Nicktoons.
Not just cartoons.
We're Nicktoons.
Wanda, Cosmo, Grant, and Timmy, all his wishes gimme, gimme. Donnie, Darwin, Debbie, Mama, Liza talking to a llama. Jimmy Neutron got a blast, flying high, flying fast. Action League is in the air. The flesh ain't got no underwear. Not just cartoons.
We're Nicktoons.
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 Games, music, weather, info about everything. Nick.com, one site for anything you're into. Fish on a stick? Not yet. Everything else? You can get it, cause Nick.com got it.
What's the point in doing an intro for this show when it's just going to be the same thing but one word is changed? SpongeBob Flash Games! SpongeBob and Patrick are just two innocent friends who would never intentionally harm anyone.
This one episode...
Shut up. But apparently Nick thought otherwise, because they decided to tie them both to a log floating on the surface of the ocean as they're attacked by the wildlife. A log away from home. Okay, but seriously, this game gives no explanation as to who kidnapped and tied both SpongeBob and Patrick and sent them away through an execution method they do to suspected witches during the Salem witch trials.
Terror, did you do this?
Hey, my thing is torture, not executions, but I can't help but to admire the craft here. Both tied to opposite sides of a log as one is forced to suffocate outside of their natural habitat as they flip around and fight for that sweet, salty ocean water. A perfect way to destroy a good friendship through desperation and agony.
Well, that's interesting. I like how the art style is different in the ocean and in the surface. The goal of the game is to survive each level by dodging obstacles and enemies, while collecting coins for points and bubbles to clear the screen of hostiles. You can flip the log, and yes, there is a purpose for this. Depending on what direction you're facing, you can either jump outside of the water or submerge. An easy way to remember which side does what is to look at what direction Patrick is facing. It's a fine waste of time, but one thing I really can't stand are the enemy placement. Enemies spawn in randomly, which can make dodging some of them nearly impossible. You're bound to get some free hits if you're unlucky. And if you die, you'll sink to the bottom of the ocean. You know, where they live. So, I guess my failure was doing them a favor? Deep Freeze Freakout, where you can play as either SpongeBob or Plankton, who is as big as SpongeBob apparently, or not, considering that we could be inside of a fridge, so it might be that it's SpongeBob that's as small as Plankton? I don't know, sometimes Flash games are like Atari. They give you little to no context, and all that you know is, that guy right there, that's a bad man. Get that guy, or die. Also, number get big, and big number equals superiority. I'm better at Nickelodeon SpongeBob Squarepants Deep Freeze Freakout than you.
Just let him have this. He's accomplished nothing in his life anyway. He's got to draw dummy thick alt women just to fill the void in his heart.
I'm going to fucking kill you. You move around with the mouse as whoever you didn't choose to play as will throw food at you. You must dodge the food and wait for one piece to bounce off the ground. Click that piece to reflect it back at them. After a while, you'll be able to click an ice cube, which sends you to the next section, where you must click to jump from one platform to another while dodging the food being thrown. Make it to the top and the game repeats at a higher difficulty. I've got to say that SpongeBob looks a bit off here. He just looks too serious. What's he trying to be? Mario and Smash Brothers? No, but seriously, why is Mario so pissed off in Smash? Y'all need therapy.
Therapy can only do so much when you're shrunk down to the size of a plankton and can't be killed by an onion.
This game is alright, but one major issue is that sometimes when clicking the food that bounces off the ground, the next wave is already thrown, and you don't have enough time to dodge it. Also, these platforming sections can get tough later in the game. But that's pretty okay. I'm still better at it than you are. Oh yeah, spooky game, and it's got that old horror movie vibe, right up my alley. Plunder Blunder. The description of the game is as so. SpongeBob's on the run from ghost pirates. Help him escape before he has a blunder. A schmunder gunder. A higgly biggly and a boogly boogly.
You're nearly 30, by the way.
Yeah, and? SpongeBob constantly runs forward as ghosts give him chase. You have 3 actions. Jumping, which allows you to dodge the pizza that the ghost on the right of the screen will throw at you. Sliding, so you can skid past the Flying Dutchman's cannonballs. And shooting bubbles to push back the ghost if they get a little too close. The ones from behind will occasionally creep up on you, and if they catch you, you'll take damage. That scream. That doesn't sound like SpongeBob. That sounds more like... Also, this will occasionally happen. Jesus Christ! That was a borderline jump scare! The ghost on the right will also chase you down, so you must shoot him away as well. With every level, things start getting faster. The pizza and cannonballs are easy enough to deal with, but the ghosts on the left are a pain. You're already so close to them, so even on early levels, you have to shoot them as soon as they start moving. I'd say just move SpongeBob to the right, but then there's the ghost on the right too. You'll have to slow him down as well for that to work. But besides that, this game is a pretty alright time waster. It's engaging enough, and I like how they tried to do a horror movie aesthetic for this one. But even SpongeBob can't escape death. He cries as he is unable to accept his fate. Sitting within the darkness, with none of his friends to comfort him in his last moments of freedom, his plunder truly was blundered. One running gag from the show is that SpongeBob is constantly trying to get his license and always fails. This brings us to Mrs. Puff's boating school, where you play as SpongeBob trying to get his license and you have to help him. Use the mouse to steer to dodge obstacles, and that's really it. Yep, there's not much more to this game. Just get through the 5 levels, get Krabby Patties and bars of candy for points, and avoid obstacles like jellyfish, traffic cones, and... wait, what's that? Oh, that's a wall. You see, I could tell that's a wall because they have the word wall painted on this wall. Oh, thank you for telling me. I would have never figured that out on my own. And thank God they took into account my short-term memory loss, because every wall that spawns also has the word wall painted on it too. You can also collect 5 pairs of underwear to get a boost you can use by pressing space. During the boost you are also invincible. Oh no, look! Ramps? So I can get some sick air. Let's try it. This is it. This is the moment. My life has peaked. It can never get better than this. My only fear is that it's only downhill from here. Wait, what's that? Oh, that's a wall. You see, I can tell that's a wall because they have the word wall painted on that wall. Oh, thank you for telling me. I would have never figured that out on my own. And thank God they took into account my short-term memory loss, because every wall that spawns in also has the word wall painted on it too. Wait, what's that? Anyone ever wonder what's the point in Valentine's Day? To let your significant other know how much you care for them? Newsflash, you can do that any day of the week. If you need a specific day to do it, then how about your anniversary or your partner's birthday? Doesn't waiting to celebrate your love the exact same day as literally every other couple make it less special? What else does Valentine's Day have to offer? A proven increase in suicide rates and homicides? There is the chocolate, but that's still better to wait till after Valentine's Day so you can get it on discount.
Sounds like to me you're just a bitter bitch.
Well, what does that make me then? You know I hate Valentine's Day, right? Am I a bitter bitch too?
Yes.
You can call me bitter all you want, I just don't fucking get it. That brings us to Valentine's Day virus. Karen has a virus, and it's up to Plankton to prove his love for her by venturing through mazes, collecting heart pieces, and fighting viruses. As soon as the level starts, you are given a blink and you miss a peek at the map. The objective of each stage is different. Sometimes you'll just need to get to the exit. Other times you'll need to collect pieces of Karen's broken heart, or you'll need to find ammo to kill viruses. Each level is timed, so you better learn the layout of each map fast. This one is one of the better Flash games as I played it for almost 10 minutes. Now I know that sounds dumb, but you gotta remember that most Flash games aren't that big, and most of the time as a kid, you'll just play around for 5 minutes before trying to find another game. If you find yourself playing for more than 5 minutes, then you've got yourself a good one. Like those discount chocolates that go on sale after Valentine's Day. Your loneliness is my sweet treat. Okay, that is legitimately adorable.
I am my own master, just the way I like it.
Cheese dips! 100% real cheese taste explosion! Ha!
Cheesy! Cheese nips from Nabisco! Introducing new Spongebob Squarepants Cheese Nips!
Uh-oh.
Cheese Baron fun gone overboard in nautical nibbler shapes. New Spongebob Squarepants Cheese Nips. 100% cheese taste explosion.
Rated everyone. Big news in Bikini Bottom. 4 friends can play in this 30-level action-packed multiplayer video game to see who will make it big in Spongebob Squarepants. Lights, camera, pants. Available now. Game and system sold separately.
After the success of Mario Party, we saw several other studios that tried to replicate what Nintendo had brought to the table, all with varying success. Shrek Super Party, Sonic Shuffle, Pac-Man Fever, Fusion Frenzy, and one that I grew up with was Spongebob Squarepants Lights, Camera, Pants.
Victory is mine!
Gil Hammerstein is an executive producer on the new adventures of Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. He is in charge of finding the right actors to play as each supporting character, so we get SpongeBob, Patrick, Sandy, Squidward, Mr. Krabs, and Plankton to compete in different minigames, referred to as auditions, they see who is the best fit to play as each role. He sends them to one location. Said location has a judge, being a different character from the show, as the players must go toe-to-toe in 3 auditions. By the end, the points are tallied up, and whoever has the most points gets to roll for that scene. And whoever has the most points by the end of the game gets to play as the main villain. Speaking of the show, after an actor is chosen, you get to watch that location scene with the victor playing as their character.
The hermit used to be in my tap dancing class.
Well, that's a coincidence.
Uh-huh.
Since there are 6 playable characters in the game, there are actually 6 different versions of each scene. That also means there are 6 versions of the new adventures of Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. And no, it's not just the same scene but with a different character reading the same lines plastered on it. Each one is written differently, taking advantage of the character's personality traits, as Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy react accordingly.
My moment has arrived. Under the excellent conductorship of yours truly, Maestro Squidward, I present the Whale Philharmonic. Hit it!
That's actually really cool, especially when you take into consideration how much work that must have took. I mean, really, some of these scenes are pretty well animated for a mid-2000s PlayStation 2 game, and they can actually be pretty funny too. After beating the game, you get to see the full show with all the scenes in order. It's not just the show that's different, but also the cutscene of Gil finding out who got the role. Gil himself is a pretty entertaining character. He feels like a two-faced corporate producer, as he can switch between being easily annoyed and disinterested, or an overly gratifying show host type, who's always in fear of his boss.
Make sure you sort the good from the bad.
Of course I will. That's why you chose me.
Right.
A single playthrough of the main story has an hour's worth of scenes. As there are 6 characters, that means there's actually 6 hours worth of cutscenes in the game. It's like the cutscenes were the whole reason they made this game, and I mean that in the best and worst way.
Finally, something to do.
There are a total of 30 minigames here, each split into groups of 3 for each location. Every location has a different theme or gimmick for its games. The Krusty Krab is completely team-based, Sand Stadium are all rhythm games, and Goo Lagoon are all beach games. Most of the games are pretty alright. Every location has at least one fun game, while the others are okay. My favorite games are the Inflatable Pants, Goo Gladiators, Surface Tension, Charge, Seahorse Stampede, and Breaking Out. Once all 3 games are beaten, the score is tallied, and whoever has the most points at the end gets the location. If it ends in a tie, then a tiebreaker will commence. That tiebreaker being rock, paper, scissors. Look, I get it. Luck plays somewhat of a factor in party games, but there is something infuriating about your victory being literally dictated by rock, paper, scissors. It's like after you die, you have to play a Loves Me or Loves Me Not to decide whether or not you go to heaven or hell. Peace and tranquility, eternal damnation. Peace and tranquility, eternal damnation. Especially after playing these long-ass games. The biggest problem is that the games go on for way too long. In most party games, the minigames are usually around 1 to 2 minutes long, but here, most of the minigames average from around 3 to 5. That doesn't sound like that much of a problem, but having each game go on for that long turns good games into repetitive games. The party game makes the minigames, but the minigames don't make the party game. Okay, that probably just sounds fucking stupid, like some people die when they're killed bullshit. Let me explain. In a game like Mario Party, you and your friends are competing for stars. Whoever has the most stars at the end wins. To get the star, you need coins. So how do you get coins? The minigames. But the minigames need to be short and sweet. They've got to be fun, but not overstay their welcome. Why? You're playing these games to increase your coins, stars, droplets, or whatever you're competing for. You want to get to the point so you can see the numbers change, and thus things get more interesting. The real game is the numbers. The number of stars, the number of coins, and even the number that represents your place in the game. The mini-games are what influences the numbers, so they need to be short so they can affect the numbers efficiently. If the games are too long, regardless of how fun they are, they start becoming a distraction. The longer the game, the longer it'll take for the scores to change, and the more bored or annoyed the players become. That's what I meant by party games make the mini-games, but mini-games don't make the party game. The party game is the main focus, and the mini-games add to the overall experience. But if the mini-games try to take over and hog the spotlight, the party game feels like less of a party and more like a chore. Like I said, some of these games are fun, but they also take way too long to beat. They become repetitive, boring, and annoying to play. And it doesn't help that to beat a location, one of the players needs to pass this line on the scoreboard. If no one does, then you must go back and replay one of the games until you do. And it's not like the score you get the second time adds to the already established score. The score you and the other players get after replaying a minigame replaces the score of that same audition. So it really does become a chore. I got to the point where I started to help my opponent just so I could move on to the next set. Oops, did I do that? Oh no, you deserve it, I insist. It's my point, so I have to put it in my goal, right? It's one of those frustrating experiences, because they have all the pieces needed to make a fun party game, and just some small changes would have been enough to do that. 1. Make the game shorter. Just 1 to 2 minutes each is enough. Maybe 3 for some cases, but even that's pushing it. Maybe have a custom option to make the games longer, or make it so the game ends after a certain point range is met, rather than a time limit. But that should only be reserved for playing these games on their own, not the main story. 2. Remove rock, paper, scissors and replace it with a tiebreaker minigame. 3. Remove the point minimum for the scoreboard. If one player has more points than the rest by the end of the audition, then it shouldn't matter how many they have. Keeping them from winning just because they didn't meet a certain limit, even though they beat all of the other players, is annoying to everyone. 4. Replace one of the minigames in the Krusty Krab with a non-team game, or at least switch the teams around to the point where there's less of a chance of a tie in comparison of it being guaranteed. Yes, the Krusty Krab is the first location you go to, and no matter what you do, you are guaranteed to have a tiebreaker, so your first victory really is going to be decided by rock, paper, scissors. Besides adding some more game modes, I'd say that's all you have to do to make this game great. All of the pieces are there, most of the mini games are fun, and the story mode is great. You just need to adjust them accordingly. But as it is, lights, camera, pants overstays its welcome. What? Were you expecting me to use this as an opportunity to joke about the show running for way too long? Oh, come on, that's low-hanging fruit. What do you think I am? The cartoon community? Jesus.
Introducing Kraft Spongebob Squarepants Macaroni and Cheese! C-Rex is diving down below me.
To Bikini Bottom on me.
Because beneath the ocean only lies a cheesy treasure-oni. New Kraft Spongebob Macaroni and Cheese with SpongeBob, Squidward, Gary, and Patrick.
Ready, SpongeBob?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
Out of base. New Kraft SpongeBob Macaroni. Introducing Kraft Spongebob Squarepants Super Mac and Cheese.
This game has not yet been rated. A hero no one ever imagined must save the world from an unspeakable evil and protect life, liberty, and the pursuit of Krabby Patties. The Spongebob Squarepants movie. Available now.
Yo, homie, you ever seen the SpongeBob movie? It is absolute cinema, and I do not say that lightly. It is the best movie Nickelodeon has ever made, at least in my opinion. The Rugrats movie, Jimmy Neutron, and Rango were close seconds for me. And of course, much like literally anything that existed in the 2000s, it had a game. Movie tie-in games probably had a worse reputation than your typical licensed game, as while they all had short development cycles due to needing to be released when the source material was still relevant, movie tie-ins had it worse due to absolutely needing to come out before the movie did. At least with games based on TV shows or cartoons, they had at least a little bit more leniency. But the SpongeBob movie game may be an exception case, as it was developed by Heavy Iron Studios, the same people who made SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom. They reused the engine and several assets to be able to make this game. It seems like the stars aligned for a great sequel of a great game that's also based on a great movie. And many people love this game, as several were hoping for this game to get the rehydrated treatment, which hasn't happened yet, but don't let go of your dreams. They'll help distract you from the fact that corporate greed is destroying the middle class. But there's just one problem. This game came out only a year after Battle for Bikini Bottom. Even reusing an engine and assets might not help a game when it's expected to come out that soon after its predecessor. But what do I know? Let's find out here on Cackling Pumpkins, where we're talking about SpongeBob SquarePants, the movie, the game. Now let me ask, have you seen the movie? Well, if you haven't, you should find it legally right now. It is genuinely fantastic. But if you have, then you already know the story of the game. SpongeBob is denied being the manager of the Krusty Krab 2 due to being a kid, which, is he? Sure, he plays with toys, but he's also in the process of getting his license, works a stable job, and lives independently in his own home. He's more of an adult than most of World of Warcraft's player base. This sends him into a depression, while Plankton commences Plan Z. He steals King Neptune's crown and frames Mr. Krabs. He then steals the Krabby Patty formula and uses it to enslave Bikini Bottom. SpongeBob and Patrick must hunt down the crown in Shell City before it's too late. Does anyone else find it weird that Plankton was able to steal the Krabby Patty secret formula, use it to produce his own Krabby Patties, but by the next season of the show, he's back to trying to steal it again? I get it's a cartoon, and I also get that Steven Hillenburg wanted the movie to be the finale, but Nick had other plans. But what, did he just conveniently forget what the formula was? Motherfucker's wife is a computer, and you didn't think to Control S that shit? The story of the game is the exact same as the movie, and don't worry, they do it justice here. And by that, I mean they turned it into a slideshow using screenshots of the movie and some weirdly edited shots where they add official renders. Really? Look, I get it, they only had a year to make this game, so I can't expect fully animated cutscenes here. But couldn't they at least use clips from the movie? Many tie-in games at the time would use scenes of the movies they're based on as a substitute for cutscenes. But here it's just a bunch of JPEGs. Some pinges even. Perhaps maybe even WebPs? Whoever made that file format, I'm throwing you into a pot of molten iron. Do you know how hard it is to find a decent render with a transparent background now? Look, there's nothing wrong with telling your story through static images alone. Visual novels, analog horror, and comics do the same thing, but that's because that's their choice of presentation. The action should match the storytelling. Imagine playing the most intense boomer shooter you can find, and then the cutscenes look like this. And don't tell me it doesn't matter, because that's what Team Sonic Racing did, and everyone hated that. But I'm willing to be forgiving considering this was a mid-2000s movie tie-in game that only had 1 year of development. But modern big companies, you've got no excuse. Especially you, Pokemon, Mr. #1 media franchise in the world who can't even have the option of voice acting but expect us to take these awkwardly silent cutscenes seriously. I am just feeling the vibe here. Now, while both Battle for Bikini Bottom and this game both use the same engine and by heart are 3D platformers, they're also quite different from one another. This is one of those two sides of the same coin situations. First, let's take a look at the aesthetics. For example, they've replaced the shiny things with weights. Don't worry, they still make that satisfying noise, but I'm not as inclined to collect these things as I was before. I understand that it goes with the theme of the movie, SpongeBob wanting to prove how manly he is, even though this guy can barely even lift teddy bears on a stick. These weights don't have the same effect as the shiny things do. They could have gone for silhouettes of fists or even, I don't know, shiny mustaches. That would work better for the theme of the film, as there's a point where King Triton's daughter, Mindy, gets SpongeBob and Patrick to think that they're men by giving them fake mustaches, so of course they'd want to be collecting them. They also altered the visuals of SpongeBob's attacks. In the first game, they were all bubble-themed, but now they're seemingly replaced by literal interpretations of these attacks. For example, the Bubble Bowl now has SpongeBob use an actual bowling ball.
I'm a little mixed with this one. This also goes with the theme of the movie, as SpongeBob thinks he has to prove that he's a man to others, and not some bubble-blowing baby. Because you know what we do to bubble-blowing babies around here? We tell them to stop watching this channel because Cackling Pumpkins isn't made for kids. I ain't your dang babysitter. Don't bitch to me when you see that your kid learned something that they're too young to understand, when you should have been supervising them. Be a parent, you fool. But still, these alterations aren't as interesting as the bubble-themed ones. I guess the song was right all along. The kid inside will set you free. They did get creative with the Bubble Cruise, as now it's a note from an electric guitar, a reference to Goofy Goober Rock. The robots from the first game are gone, but not completely, as some of them have been redesigned to fit whatever level they're in, whether that be Plankton's minions or the bikers from the Thug Tug. This is a change I like a lot more, as it works with the source material, but it's still just as appealing as it was before. But it's not just the aesthetics that have changed. Battle 4 has these big open levels that, while they do have a obvious path, it still gives you the freedom to explore a bit. However, this game is much more linear. Levels are designed more like Crash Bandicoot stages, where they're a bit more narrow than the open levels were, though these levels are still good. In Battle 4, you can even go through the levels in a different order depending on how many golden spatulas you have, but here it's in a set order. You still need to collect something in order to progress through the game. In the original it was golden spatulas, but here it's Goofy Goober tokens. It doesn't matter how many you collect, you must complete the game in order. In Battle for Bikini Bottom, you have 3 playable characters, each with their own abilities, but only one has unlockable abilities, and the other 2 are split between levels. You can play as Patrick in Jellyfish Fields, or Sandy in downtown Bikini Bottom. In the movie game, Sandy is cut, as now you only have SpongeBob and Patrick, but good news is that Patrick has some new abilities. Instead of a belly bump, he now has a spin attack like SpongeBob does, and now he has a cartwheel attack that allows him to roll around the stage. Both characters also have upgrades you can purchase to make these attacks stronger. If none of that sells you on the game, then don't worry, there's still more to go over. In between certain levels, you now have paddy wagon levels. Drive from one side of the stage to the other. Honestly, the driving here feels pretty alright. It's not perfect, as this game obviously wasn't designed to be a racing game. Drifting feels like it takes some speed away, and bumping into walls completely kills it. But for something that only takes up a few levels of the game, it feels pretty alright to control. The tracks can be a bit of a pain though, especially Sunday Driving and Shell City. Sliding returns, but instead of sliding on SpongeBob's tongue, you now slide with Patrick on a shell. The tracks of these levels are much longer than the first. Take that for what you will. These are okay, honestly. With both, you're often pressured to replay these levels to beat your time to get another token. You also have new bonus levels. Find a glowing platform and enter the stage. Face off the enemies that spawn in on waves. Kind of ironic that these levels exist when the remake of Battle for Bikini Bottom would include a wave-based challenge mode. If they ever decide to remake this game, then including such a mode wouldn't be that hard. You also have platforming challenges as well. This game is a clear sequel to Battle for Bikini Bottom, but it also feels like its own thing. It's like these two games exist in completely different universes, so similar but so far apart. It's not like Super Mario Galaxy 2, where it reuses so much that it feels like an expansion of the first game rather than a proper sequel. That's why it's hard for me to say which game is better, because while they reuse so much from the original title, both have different executions. It's less of a which one is better discussion, and more of a which do you prefer. Well, I mean, it was always like that, because enjoying entertainment is quite possibly one of the most subjective things in the world. The only objective thing about enjoying entertainment is that we all view it differently, and only a chronically online loser on social media who quote reposts users just for stating an opinion on a children's game would say otherwise. Yes, I'm looking at you. You know what you did. Which do you prefer? More open levels that, while they do have a set path, they still give you the opportunity to explore and find secrets? Or linear narrow levels that have everything on a set path, and the challenge is more finding everything on that path and getting to the end? Do you prefer the ability to skip levels and go at your own pace depending on your skill? Or doing everything the way it was intended to take it all in like it was designed? Do you prefer 3 playable characters with one being the main focus, or just 2 with upgradable abilities? Do you like the main form of platforming while occasionally changing the objective, or rather bonus levels hidden throughout the game with these objectives in mind? Do you like the gameplay being consistent all the way through, or having the next level be a racing stage? Personally, I'm more into the first game, as that's where my interests more lie. I think this game is still good and worth trying if you find a copy of it somewhere, and I wouldn't mind if they did give this one the rehydrated treatment. It really just depends on what you like. These two games are so similar, yet also so different, that it feels wrong to pit them against each other. It's like pitting Street Fighter against Mortal Kombat, or Mario to Sonic, or Super Smash Bros. To Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 or literally any other platform fighter, you Smash fans can't accept that this is a fucking genre! Also, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 is a great game and y'all slept on it. There's no real point in doing so because it's more of a matter of what you like more, and even if there are more people that may share an opinion on a game that you don't, that doesn't mean that you're wrong. Being in a minority just means that your interests lie elsewhere. Who cares what game someone puts their money into? It's video games, let's just have fun.